is Sydney, and today I'm going to be talking to you about why I think Nacho Libre has the perfect hero's journey. Now, disclaimer, spoiler, I will be spoiling this movie. This movie has been out since 2006, so if you haven't seen it, too bad. Now, before we dive into the story, once again, let's talk about what is the hero's journey. So, the hero's journey was created by Joseph Campbell, and it is a universal cycle that all heroes go through. Now, it's not to say that not every hero hits every mark. That doesn't make them a hero. It's just to say that they're not as the same level as I think heroes should be, or as in this case, the same level as Nacho. And so here I have the diagram of Nacho's story and just the cycle Joseph Campbell created here. Now let's start. So who is Nacho? Nacho is a friar in a monastery. He cooks for orphans, and he doesn't have a lot of priestly duties, but he does what he can to help out his brothers. And so the first step in a hero's journey is the call to adventure. So Nacho has always had this desire to become a luchador since a very young age. So he's always had this desire, this call to adventure. And the next step is meeting a mentor. So Nacho has two mentors. One being God, because he is in a Catholic monastery. It's only natural for him to look up to God. But he also has a false idol who is Ramses, and he is the greatest luchador in the world. And Nacho wants to be like him because he's the greatest. But at the same time, Ramses, he does it for vanity. He does it for the ladies, for the money, stuff that isn't godly. And so the next step is crossing the threshold. So in the diagram, we have this line right here. And it's a division between the normal world and the special world, or the unknown. And so in this case, it's between Nacho's priestlyhood and the luchador world. And once he crosses that threshold, he meets Steven Escaleto, who's his helper, his fighting partner, and this is where they have their trials and failures, where they start fighting, but they lose all their matches, but they keep getting money, so they just keep at it until they come to a point where Nacho's like, I want to win. I have a desire to win. I want to be great. I don't want to fight to lose. I want to fight to win. And this is where he has growth and develops new skills. And at the same time, this is where Nacho starts leaving his godly identity and starts leaning more into his luchador identity. And ultimately, that's where his demise begins. And if you see on the chart again, he enters the abyss, which is death and rebirth. This is the lowest point of any hero's journey. And this is where Nacho loses his chance to fight Ramses. This is where his monastery discovers that he is a luchador and he's doing ungodly things, and he is ultimately kicked out because of it. And so once he's kicked out, he has the revelation of starting to fight not for himself, not for the fame, not for anything like that, not for the money, but for the orphans and the orphans' benefit. Because in the final battle, the grand prize is 10,000 pesos, and he wants to use that money to buy the orphans and buy a bus so he can take the orphans on field trips. So in all that story dialogue that I just said, he has revelation, he changes, and atonement happens for him. And so in the final battle, he gets a second chance to fight Ramses, and he ultimately wins. And he gets the 10,000 pesos and he gets a gift. That's his gift that he gets. And it's part of the hero's journey, because without that, there is no lesson learned. Not to say that you have to get a gift when you learn a lesson, but for argument's sake and the hero's journey, this is part of it. So that's this part of the cycle. And as you see, he crosses back to the normal world. He leaves the special world behind because he doesn't need it anymore. He fulfilled that desire, that dream of his, and he's returned a changed man, no longer needing to do this because he's reached his goal. He bought the orphans, he bought them a bus, and they're going on field trips. And that's the end of his journey. And so the question is, why did I pick Nacho? Why is Nacho the perfect hero for me? And it's because he's an underdog. He doesn't like who he is. Thus, he creates an alternative version of himself that by the end mixes and becomes who he actually is. He gains that confidence and gains that leadership role that he's always wanted. And hopefully by the end of this talk, you can find your own personal hero, and hopefully they take off all these marks.